everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Oh Shoot. We have a guest on the podcast today. It's been a
Yes.
minute since I've had a guest. I know I am chatting with Serena Yang, and this is going to be iconic. You guys should definitely watch on YouTube because she's literally so cute.
Oh my
So,
god.
Serena, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about you, who you are, what you do? Give us the lowdown.
Oh my god. Hello everyone. My name is Serena, also longtime fan of Cassidy, so this is crazy. But I am from Ottawa, but I shoot a lot in Montreal as well. I'm a content photographer and content creator and also a student at the University of Ottawa. I'm a third year communications student. But yeah, so excited to be here.
That's amazing. Okay, so I didn't know you were a student as
Yeah.
well. That's
Oh,
so cool. So how did your whole photography journey start?
well, I've always been interested in photography, like, never like, as a child, not seriously, but, like, I loved, like, disposables and, like, the Instax film cameras, like, the little colorful ones. I love playing around with those and, like, the little digital cameras. But then during COVID, like, 2020, during lockdown, I was so bored. Me and my friend Catherine, shout out Catherine, we were trying to be, like, Pinterest girlies. So we'd walk around the neighborhood and like take fit pics because like where else are we wearing our outfits? But then I was like, oh, you know what? Like my sister has a camera. She had this little. It's like a Canon point and shoot. Actually, it's the Canon EOS M. I think it's discontinued now, but it's very small. I was like, my sister has a camera. If we're taking these fit pics, I might as well bring that. So that got me into like I started out as a portrait photographer. I would just take pictures of my little friends around the neighborhood during COVID. And yeah, and then university started and I kind of, stopped for a bit. But then I would just I had a little Konica Minolta, like a point and shoot film camera, because I was using disposables so much. I was like, I might as well just get a film camera. And I'd bring that to parties and stuff. And like, I'd be like, oh, this is actually fun. And like, I kind of have an eye for this. So then I started bringing my little camera to like local events, like indie rock shows at bars and like very small venues, and just like take photos and then send them to the artist or the event afterwards, and like started an Instagram. And then yeah, so I still concerts is my main niche. That's what I mostly post about, but I shoot a lot of local events and I still do some portraiture as well.
Okay. Very, very cool. So how old are you?
Oh, I'm 20.
Okay, amazing. I love That's so cool because you're kind of just like at the beginning of it all. I feel like you have so many like roads out in front of you. You've got so many options. So it's like,
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
you're in like a really cool stage of photography. Like if I wish I could go back in my like 20-year-old self time and just like I don't know, really just take it in because I feel like you're just so passionate about it. It's so fresh, it's so fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely like. I feel like a lot of the time, I feel like oh, I have so much to do. Like, there's so much I want to do. I need to get better. I need to accomplish this. But then I have these moments where I'm like, girl, calm down. Like you're
Yeah.
20, you got this.
Yes, that I do remember that feeling of just extreme overwhelm when, there's so many things you want to do. Like I was like, I want to launch presets, I want to, shoot destination weddings and like it doesn't happen overnight. Like that type of stuff takes months and
Me
years
too.
of
Yeah,
developing in order for that to like become a thing.
for sure.
So, but it does start like right now. You know what I mean? Like you do have to start
Exactly.
putting in the work for some of those big things, but it does take time as well.
Oh, exactly. And that's where like you've been a huge inspiration for me, not to gush, but like you're an amazing photographer, but also like amazing businesswoman. Like I really admire how like you do your photography, you do your content, and then you have your presets, your courses, like you've kind of built up so much, and that's what I'm trying to slowly do as well.
Okay, cool. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Yeah, it's a fun transition when you love photography, but also like you can get into like content creating and educating. I just think it adds like a whole extra element to your business. I don't know. It's like,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
I'm trying to pivot this year. I started trying to grow my well, I've always tried to grow my account, but like I started consistently putting in effort like November of that last year, and I've always tried to make YouTube videos as a child. They're probably still up on the internet somewhere, but I really enjoyed like educating or creating like entertaining content. So that's definitely been a pivot of my focus this year. Of course, I still love working with clients one on one, but it's really fun to like, build a community online.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we'll touch on later on in the podcast is your social media and we'll talk about some fun strategies and stuff. So, will I have a question that I wanted to ask you first. So, I actually found you through one of your reels. You were shooting Olivia Rodrigo
Oh
and
my god.
yeah, and I like went on your page. You have a lot of like viral concert stuff. So I guess like my first question for you is how did you get into that? Like that's a pretty big opportunity. So how did concerts
Yeah.
start for you?
So when I was 17, my first year of university, I just started, going to shows. Like in Ottawa here, we have an amazing indie rock scene, so much talent and so much like proactiveness, and like bands organizing their own shows, putting on like little like indie festival lineup things. But yeah, I would just bring my little camera to these shows, and they're always very welcoming, like of course you can take pictures. And yeah, so that really got me into the music scene and taking music photos. And I did that for a long time. I've always wanted to, shoot bigger concerts as well. And then one day I just had a stroke of luck. Like I feel like this has never happened before, but like the band The Glorious Sons, they were headlining a local festival called City Folk, and it's like pretty like decent sized festival, probably like 10,000 people in attendance. And like um their team just emailed me and they were like, we need a photographer. And this is like the day before, like very last minute. And like at this point I had only shot like bar shows and like very small venues, so I was like, oh my god, of course. So um that really gave me something to my portfolio, because I feel like a lot of concert photographers or aspiring concert photographers struggle to like get their first show, because of course you need experience to get experience. So that was, lightning strike moment for me. And yeah, since then been able to grow my portfolio, and I mostly shoot for publications. So like I'm shooting for online blogs mostly who need coverage of a concert, and then that's how I get photo passes. But I also, for Olivia Rodrigo, she was doing super limited press, and you would only like soundboard access, which means like photographers who were approved could only shoot from the very back of the arena. So that's super far. So I was like, you know what, probably not going to get approved. I didn't. I'm also a huge fan too. So I'm like, I need to shoot this. So I got a general admission pit ticket, and I brought my little Sony RX100, camped out, got barricade. By the grace of God, got barricade, center barricade, where she spends most of the show. And yeah, so all those little pictures were taken on my point and shoot camera, and they
Yes.
did really well on social media, thankfully.
Oh, wow. Okay, I have so many questions based on that.
Mhm.
Number one, how did that first initial email that you said that the day before the festival they emailed you? Do you know how they found you?
I asked, and they said they just found me on Instagram. So like, photographers, post your work.
That's amazing. Okay, and then the second comment I have, because I literally have the Sony RX100, I've
Mhm.
always thought to myself, what if I just got front row at a concert and just like
Oh my
shot?
god.
Because I don't think with those little point and shoots, they like don't confiscate those. Like they would let you in with those
Yeah,
cameras.
yeah. For most venues, this would be allowed because it doesn't have a detachable lens, and it's literally tiny. It's like smaller than your hand, if it's in any like little venue approved purse. But it's my favorite. I did the same for the 1975. Like got barricade, took pictures from the front. It's a great camera for concerts because it has really long zoom. It has like zoom up to 200 millimeters, which is crazy for how small it is, and then also like decent resolution of 20 megapixels, and it can shoot in raw and manual, so that gives you some like control, and then like you get some leeway editing. Like
Mhm.
definitely like the before and after for the Olivia Rodrigos, like the befores aren't great, but after like 10 days in Lightroom, we can make it work.
Absolutely. So that's really cool that you just kind of like almost like DIY'd your way into
Yeah.
getting that in your portfolio, but that's a really great idea because if you want that in your portfolio, like the only person that's going to be able to give it to you is you. Like you can't just like sit around and hope Olivia Rodrigo emails you.
Oh
You know
my
what I
god,
mean?
yeah. 1,000%. That's like I feel like that's my biggest message for people. And when you talk about like, be young and having opportunities, I think when it comes to photography or any creative field, it is like, and like it's unconventional and people fear about like stability and finding jobs, but it's very important to be proactive and take things into your own hands
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about concerts and stuff, what do you shoot on? Like break us down your go-to cameras, your lenses, like what have you found is like the perfect setup for you?
Well, I'm a Sony girly. I shoot on a Sony A7 IV body. I like to have two camera bodies on me when I shoot a concert. Currently don't have one though, so I borrow around. But I like to have two Sony A7 IV camera bodies, and then on one I'll have my 24 to 70 Sony G Master Mark II, and then on the other one I'll have my 70 to 200 Sony G Master. If it's like an arena or a stadium or like a festival, like a bigger stage, I'll bring my 70 to 200. But last night, I actually shot the driver era last night in Montreal. It was so much fun.
Oh,
But
fun.
for like a smaller theater type venue, I like to have my Sigma 14 to 24 on it just to get like a wider like view of the stage, capture everything. And sometimes, when the performer comes really close, you get these like cool, like distorted wide angle shots. I love that.
Mhm. That's amazing. Um, I personally love I've been loving the 70 to 200 more lately,
Yeah.
just for like I think specifically for events. It's like
Mhm.
it truly is like being able to teleport. On my last episode I talked about lenses and it feels like you can be in multiple places at once, right? Like
Yes,
if
yes.
you're for example shooting Olivia Rodrigo and you're stuck back like by the sound booth, like you cannot be multiple places at once, but I
Uh,
do feel like certain lenses allow you more capability to be
oh,
multiple
for
places at
sure.
once.
I shoot a lot of events as well, so, like, I recently, I'm like, before I've been like, "Oh, it's like a smaller venue, and I don't need to haul my heavy 70 or 200," but I've been loving using it for events as well, because you can kinda snipe people and, like, because when you're up close, people kinda tense up and they're, aware of you, but you can
Mhm.
kinda spy on people and get those, like, real candid moments with that lens.
Yes, absolutely. That is like my biggest secret to getting really good candids is having like a lens where people can't they won't notice that you're taking photos of them. It's
Mhm.
a really good little hack. Um, I wanted to ask you, did you ever mess around with other camera brands? Have you always shot Sony or
I think at my start, I played around Canon a bit. I had my sister's Canon EOS M, but also I borrowed my friend's Canon Rebel a lot. And then, yeah, there were two friends who had Canon Rebels that I borrowed a lot. One of them was a T7. I don't remember the other one, but I think a lot of people ask me like what camera they recommend for beginners, and I always say like it's not the camera, and you should practice your like composition and like shooting skills and editing skills first, because beginner cameras, if you're looking for something cheap, you're probably not going to find a good camera. So like it's important to practice those other skills first. But the Canon Rebel line, I feel like that's good for beginners and it's very affordable. But yeah, after that, like shot on Canon Rebel for a bit, and then I was like, I need to invest in like a proper camera, because this is when I started taking photography seriously. So I did some research. I was like, I should go mirrorless. Went with a Sony A7 IV, and yeah, so I've been a Sony girly ever since.
yeah, I love it. I'm also a Sony girly and I've never tried the A7 IV though.
Uh huh.
So I hearing that you like it, I'm glad to hear that. I've never tried it. I feel like it is like a really good option for someone in like a position like you where you're like I mean,
Yeah,
technically was that your first camera?
I guess so. Yeah, my first like professional camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's a great, like, 'cause I feel like it's great for someone like me. It's very compact, it's very fast, very sharp autofocus. It's also like the resolution is a nice middle ground, like you get a lot to work with, but it's not like the R line where you're getting these huge files and like it's a tad bit slower, I heard, and like I it's just a great middle ground for me.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed that. I have the Sony A7R5.
mhm.
Um, and I have noticed the file sizes are ginormous,
Mhm.
which is nice sometimes, but then it's like sometimes I don't really need that big of a file. Like
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, so I the that's why I do love the Sony A7s and like the I shoot on the A9 too is like my
Mhm.
go-to right now. Um and yeah, I find that that file size and like the fastness of it is like a great combo for what I do.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So quick random question before I want to like dive into some concert stuff, but
Yes.
how is it for you juggling school and also doing photography at the same time?
Oh, girl, good question. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, communications, the program is, like, stupid easy. Like, I don't know, like, I was watching my boyfriend do a paper the other day for his history class because he's a history major, and I was like, "Oh, shit," like, I forgot that, like, school is, like, hard for some programs. But okay, if I'm doing just a semester of class, it's okay. But my last semester, I was dying every day because I did a full time internship for the government, and working like a 9 to 5, and then doing photography, and then trying to like keep my page alive and post consistently. And I'm also a social media manager for this brand Rory. It's a pet furniture company. Check it out. So doing all of that with a 9 to 5, that low key killed me. That was the most overwhelmed, overworked ever been in my life. So don't recommend. I feel like balance is something I kind of struggle with. I pull a lot of late nights. I do unhealthy things, drink a lot of coffee. So I don't really know how to answer that for now, but hopefully we'll get there. I'll get back to you.
I love an honest answer to I mean, it's good, you know, to hear
You-
honesty. Like at least you're not being like, "Oh, I juggle it so well. Like
yeah,
I never sleep and I work through the night."
yeah.
So, I'm glad you're at least honest about it and it's kind of crazy that you have like all these different things you're doing at the same time. I feel like it's low key kind of smart to be
Mm,
doing like, you know, social media managing, like internships, college, also like doing your own business, running your
mhm.
own social media because it just gives you a lot of options and you
Yeah.
can see what sticks and you can also see what you like. You
Mhm.
know, like I think a lot of people get to a point in photography where they kind of just get stuck on one thing because they never like went out and tried a bunch of different things to see what they liked. So I think it's really smart what you're doing.
Oh, that's so real. Like, I totally believe like as creatives, you should be diversifying what you do. Like, obviously, have your niche and have what makes you like have your brand. You know what makes you different. But yeah, diversifying what you can do is very important. And like, especially like people always say like it's an unstable field. Like like all our parents want us to get like a stable office job, but it's up to you and like you to get experience, and chase
Mhm.
after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So let's get into some little concert tips and tricks
Yes,
for I know the
I
people
got
listening
you.
are itching to know. So my first question is just like, what tips do you have for someone that wants to get into concert photography?
I would always say like my biggest piece of advice is to start local. Like I think the way I started helped me so much today, and that's just like by hitting up local bands, like garage bands, college bands, like playing at like bars and stuff, and being like, "Hey, can I shoot your next show?" 9 out of 10 times, they will be super friendly and be like, "Yes, of course. Oh my God, come!" And that just I, that integrated me really well into our local music scene, and also I met so many amazing people and my closest friends, and it's a obviously we all want to shoot, the big concerts like Taylor Swift's, Ed Sheeran's, whatever, but start local, start small, and like grow together. I've been friends with and shooting for a local band called Out by Lucy since their first ever show in Ottawa, because we went to the same school, University of Ottawa, and since 2021, and they've just grown a lot, and I've grown a lot, and we've still friends, and we actually went on tour like this February, which was so much fun. So that's what I mean, like, start local, grow together, support other creatives, and just concert photography. People always say like it's so competitive, but whenever people say that, like, that doesn't have to be your problem. Like, like, go out there, be friendly, like, network, but don't be fake about it. Genuinely make friends, and you will have amazing opportunities. It's just all up to you.
Yeah, I really like that. And I like the idea of sticking with a band or whatever like at the beginning and just being willing to kind of kind of be like, yeah, I know you might not be the biggest band, but also like I'm not the biggest concert photographer. So
Exactly.
let's work together
Exactly.
and let's help each other. I can help you grow by getting you photos and then you can help me by, getting stuff in my portfolio. And I think if you're just really consistent about social media with it, like, advertising yourself, marketing yourself, and then just being open to new opportunities, I think as long as you're not super prideful about it and you're willing to, take a
Exactly.
smaller gig or whatever, I think those are the type of people that really succeed within the
Mhm.
industry, the people that are just willing to do
For sure.
something, even if maybe it's not like, like you said,
Mhm.
Taylor or Ed Sheeran, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It took me around 2 years to start doing, like, bigger concerts consistently, and yeah, like you said, bring your expectations down. You really have to work for it, and it also, like, shooting in these little venues with pretty bad lighting, and like often you're cramped, people are moshing, like you're getting hit in the face. Like, I feel like that really prepared my technical photography skills and made me a faster shooter. It like made me more quick on my feet, so that prepared me for real photo pit as well. And also, like, you have to get creative with like composition in these like smaller venues to, like, make it look good.
Hmm.
So definitely it was a really good learning experience, and I still do it. I still shoot a lot of those. They're super fun.
Yeah. I do think events specifically are the best training piece for someone that is just even just learning photography.
Mhm.
It truly just forces you to be thrown into it and you have
Yes.
to be very fast and quick and
Mhm.
you have to make a decision right in the moment. Do I want to snap this photo? And like it's a very, quick, fast-paced thing, but I think that's really healthy for a photographer to go through because
Oh,
it
for sure.
does force, that quick thinking and like decisive nature that is
Mhm.
required with photography because if you miss a shot, like that might not happen again. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly, and it also gives you, like, social skills as well. Like, I shoot at I've been shooting for a emo nightclub for, like, over a year now, and it's given me a lot of, like, confidence to go up to people and be like, "Hey, can I take a photo of you?" Or, like, get close to people and be like, "Hey, can I take a photo of you?" That confidence and, like, being willing to just talk to people, that's very, very important.
Yeah, I love that. The only thing worse than taking too many photos while you're shooting is getting home and then having to edit all of them. Here are some ways to speed up your editing workflow without losing any quality in your work. Today, I want to introduce Aftershoot Edits 2.0. You can experience the most consistent edits straight out of Aftershoot. One of my favorite things about Aftershoot is their upgraded white balance and exposure AI models. Even if your lighting varies during your session and you have a lot of drastic changes, Aftershoot's able to instantly fix any blown out highlights, murky shadows, and overall, this feature allows you to have balanced photos no matter what your lighting conditions were. Another way to speed up your editing workflow is by using AI masking in Aftershoot Edits 2.0. This feature allows you to selectively edit your images through masking. With AI masking, Aftershoot can automatically select your subjects and adjust them to really make them pop in your image. Another great way to save time while you're editing is to use Aftershoot's advanced cropping and straightening. This tool allows you to customize and select any aspect ratio, and it even automatically crops in your photos so that the focus is more on your subject. It also can automatically straighten your photo, which is gonna save you so much time in the long run. Say goodbye to spending way too much time editing your photos and use Aftershoot Edits 2.0. Aftershoot has an exclusive offer for all Oh Shoot listeners, so go to the link in the description of this episode to find out more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and now back to the show. Yeah, I love that. So that kind of leads me into some of like the next thing I wanted to touch on, which is just like your techniques and strategies. Do you have any specific techniques, strategies that you use while you're shooting events and concerts?
Um, I feel like that's very vibes based. I'm not the best at explaining things. I love to like I love to play with angles. I love to like because there's only so many pictures you can take of a guy with a guitar. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I like to play with different angles and like framing the subject in interesting ways to try to get something unique out of
Mhm.
everything. Um, I love to I just try to go for anything that's vibrant or like seems candid, you know. I tried to I mean like I try to avoid a perfect picture of like, you know, someone just standing there. I try to capture movement and like, you know, this is so cheesy, but like tell a story. But tell a
Yeah.
story with my photos. Specific techniques. I love to when I have permission, I love to use flash and like play with like shutter drag with the flash or like I'm very inspired by like New York club photography, like the very bright, bold flash. I love that. My favorite style, I guess, is like I love a picture that makes you ask like how did the photographer take this? Like wow, that's such an interesting angle. How did they get so close to that subject? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I love to play with stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really fun. I think it's really a challenge when like you said, you're shooting someone that's playing a guitar, let's say. There's
Mhm.
really only so much you can get because at some point all the photos start to look the same,
For
but it
sure.
becomes like a creative challenge to be like, okay, now that I have the plain shots of like this person playing a guitar, how can I change things up, lens wise, settings wise, angle wise, to make it look different and unique so that I can, really get the
Yes.
most out of this moment.
For sure, and I've kinda created a checklist in my head for concert photos. I like to get, like, cause you know, you wanna tell the whole story and not just the performer. I like to get a close-up portrait of the performer and then, like, a wider shot of the whole band. I try to get every member, and then I like to get, like, at least one crowd shot and then some detail shots. I love a close-up, stuff like
Mhm.
that, and then of course, I try to get some like artsy ones too, like play around with angles and like, you know, maybe a little shutter drag here and there.
Yeah, I it's a really good idea to create that checklist in your head. And that's not just for concerts, that's for really any niche. I find that when I
Yes.
do an engagement shoot, I've got a checklist in my head of the
Mhm.
poses or specific photos that I want. And then once I get through that checklist, that's when I'm able to mess around with like different poses, different angles, whatever, to help me kind of like complete the gallery. But it's good to start with that checklist so that you get the bare minimum and then you can kind of like allow your creative juices to flow after that.
Exactly, exactly. And especially in a fast-paced concert or event, you're kind of I have to like calm down sometimes and bring myself to my senses and like just remember like we have to do this, this, this. 'Cause it's very fast paced, and sometimes you're too focused on trying to capture one thing that you ignore everything else around you. Like,
Hmm.
last night, I think that was the most packed photo pit I've ever been in. Like, the venue, MTELUS in Montreal, the photo pit's not wide at all. Like, it probably fits like one person standing, you know what I mean? So super packed, super high energy set as well. So it was definitely a challenge. And at some points I had to remember like you haven't done this yet. You have to go do that. You know what I mean? Capture
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in high stress moments, I could see it being overwhelming and then you just literally forget everything you know.
Exactly.
Like think
Oh
a lot of photographers experience that even with posing, like in the moment because it's just such a just like you're like a little stressed, you're,
Mhm.
a little bit on edge. And because of that, I feel like a lot of the times it can just like wipe your brain of
Yeah,
everything you know. So
1,000%.
yeah, so it's good to have like that mental checklist just to like make sure, okay, we've got everything we need. Or even it might not even be mental. Maybe you actually have a
Oh,
checklist.
no, that helps so much as well, yeah. I
hmm
love to write things down, I love to make a little notes app.
Yes, for real. I live in my notes app.
Mhm.
So the last question I wanted to ask you about concert photography before we move to social media. Do you think that concert photography is like a sustainable career? Like, I know you're not like necessarily doing it right now as your career, but like, what
Hmm.
do you think on that topic?
Um, it's a trickier niche to make money off of. The only, like, full-time concert photographers that I've met are touring photographers, and that's another thing, like, about being personable. Most tour photographers know the band personally, and it's not, like, in a bad nepotism way, it's just, like, when you're traveling with someone, when you're, like, living with someone for months, of course you wanna take someone that you're
hmm
friends with, you know? So, it it's a pretty hard niche to make money off of, and that's because it's very competitive. Everyone wants to do it, so a lot of people do it for free, and not necessarily in a bad way because a lot of these publications, these smaller publications reaching out, like they're run by one person who this is just their passion and they just want to write about music. So they don't have a budget to hire people. But even like I've heard bigger publications don't even pay their photographers very well. Like very very gross low amount.
hmm
But so in that way it's not sustainable, but for me, like, concert photography doesn't pay me well, but the content I create from it, I've been able to, like, you know brands have reached out to me, and I've the content that I've created from it pays very well, but the
Okay.
actual, like, paycheck that I get is not a lot. But I do
Yeah.
see it as, like, a worthwhile, like, investment of, like, my time and, like, me traveling to Montreal because the content I create and also, building connections for hopefully future opportunities.
Yeah. It kind of sounds similar to like a networking event. Like, for example,
Exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
like if you were to just go to this event, like maybe you have to pay for your plane tickets, you don't get paid to be there, but the opportunities that you get from just being there and, being able, whoever you met or whatever, or the content you were able to create, then opens up the door to have more paychecks. It's not like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of like a sacrifice you have to make in order to see a payout
Uh-huh.
later
It's
on.
also, like, up to you to, like, maximize and, like, make everything out of it because I've this year's super exciting. I've gone to work with Sony Alpha and Adobe Lightroom for some content, which was, oh my god, like, pinch me moment. I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but I'm about to announce that I'm gonna be an official Sony ambassador this year, which is so, and like these brands, like I asked them like how'd you find me, and they're always like through your social media, and most of my social media is like posting about my concert photography. So that's like a way I've like indirectly earned money from concert photography and like built my platform, which will lead to more opportunities.
That's amazing.
Thank
Cool.
you, thank you so much.
Yeah, so let's move on to social media then.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about it a little bit. I love your social media presence. I think you're great
Thank
at creating
you. So
content.
inspired by you, so inspired by you.
Thank you. So, I guess like one of my first questions is just like how did that whole part of your career start? Like building your social media presence. Where did that all begin?
Well, like I said, as a child, I feel like every Gen Z who grew up wanting to be a YouTuber, like, probably still have some cringy videos up online. But I've always liked, I don't know, making videos, presenting things. I feel like there's so many things I'm interested in. I feel like I could create a YouTube channel about anything. But yeah, I've been trying to make reels since I started my photography Instagram, just consistently. And but this past November, I really, I was like, I'm gonna be consistent. I think my goal was like one reel per day, every day of the month. I don't even know if I reached that, but I did hit 10K. Woohoo! Um, and that was like my first big social media milestone. That was the big goal for me. But at first, I grew my account a lot by following trends, like doing photography trends. But then I realized, like, are people actually watching my content for me, or is it because I took a photo of their favorite, like, musician?
Right.
So I was like, I need to incorporate more of myself and create a brand for myself in my content. So that's when I started, talking to the camera more, and like I love that, like, the community I have on social media and how it's kind of like a feedback loop. Like, I post content and then my audience asks me questions and I have even more content to make from that. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I was getting a lot of questions about concert photography and gear and like stuff like that. So that inspired me to get on camera more and create a brand for myself. And yeah, now we're growing and I'm trying to keep going, and it's definitely like it's a whole new world. There's a lot of things I don't understand. There's a lot of I'm always trying to make my content as engaging, as easy to understand as possible, which is why I'm so glad we're doing like a podcast, long form content, because I feel like I can just yap and yap. Like when I'm making a reel, you got that like 1 minute, 30 second limit. So I'm trying to fit as much information as possible in that. Sorry, that was a very long answer, but
Oh, no,
there
it's
we go.
okay. Yeah, 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 totally. What it it sounds like you named a few things already, but what are some of the different, like, things or strategies that you do on your platforms to help with your engagement? Because I feel like you do get a lot of engagement on your work. You get a lot of, like, comments and stuff, so what are some of the things that you do that helps with that?
Um, yeah, at first I was really struggling because I was like, how do I make a reel or a TikTok about like, because I don't want to be just, it's just like, look at my photo, that's it. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I try to engage my audience a lot, answer the questions that they have. I try to, um, I try to create I feel like in photography, there's not a lot of space for like, young photographers, especially like young female photographers to just like have fun and like, be fun about it. So that's kind of the audience that I cater to because 70% of my demographic is like young women. And so figuring out who you want your audience to be, because I want my audience to be like other people like me or like aspiring photographers, and um yeah, don't be afraid of cringe. That took me a long time to get over. Get over your fear of cringe. Who cares what, like, people that you know in real life are going to think, cuz there's a whole world of opportunity online. And a lot of people, like a lot of photographers ask me like, how do you start working with brands? How do you get these bigger social media opportunities? Brands want to work with someone who has like a presence, like you can take amazing photos, but like I don't know who you are. And it's very important that I'd say that your audience can know something about you. Like not to be weird, but like I know you have a dog, like I know your husband Charlie, like you know what I mean? Like I feel
Yeah.
like I know you on some level, so that really makes me connect with your platform.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do as well.
Mhm. Absolutely, and that's a really smart way of going about it because, like you said, when you don't have a face tied with it, it's really hard to maintain that relationship with your
Mhm.
community when honestly they might not even care about you at all. They just care about the fact that you took photos of Olivia Rodrigo, like
Exactly,
they don't
exactly.
care about who is Serena, like they just care about who, like, oh, you took photos of Olivia Rodrigo, I want to see more photos. Like that's
Exactly,
we
exactly.
want to really like bridge the gap to make sure
Mhm.
that the people that are finding you are gonna stick around.
Exactly. That was definitely a struggle I had because it's like I blew up for with like a few trends and I'm like, wait, but how do I keep these people? You know what I mean? And that's like providing value through
Yes.
my content.
That's one of my like biggest social media tips is creating two different types of videos. One is like big content that you want to reach millions and millions of people, but
Mhm.
then creating content that is valuable that caters towards the people who hit the follow button and like
Mhm.
is going to keep them around. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
exactly. Like I kind of want to branch out a little bit and do more like lifestyle stuff because I'm interested in other things other than photography. I posted a get ready with me, just like talking about life right now, my career right now, and like at the time I think I had like 50,000 followers, and it only got like maybe 20,000 views, and I was like, "Oh man." But I'm like, that's people, those are like a smaller section of my audience that are interested in me, and like, you know what I mean? And that's the most valuable part of your audience, like
Mhm.
people who are interested in the person behind the content and will stick around for that.
Absolutely, 100%. How do you come up with like new ideas for social media? It can feel like a never-ending
Oh my
cycle of content. So like how do you keep up with
god.
it?
Like my notes app is crazy. I have like a huge master list of ideas. Honestly, I try to be engaging with the audience. Like I said, I try to answer their questions. I also think about, like, I try to boil down my experience into the most valuable tidbits that I can share. Um, I also like, I like to share what I'm interested in. Like if there's a new piece of gear that I find really cool, love to talk about gear.
Yeah.
And yeah, I overall I tried to stick to that kind of niche I was talking about, of like making photography fun and like interesting for someone like me, like younger female girlies demographic, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I always found myself like when I was first getting into social media, I was sharing just like the things that I wish I knew. You know what I mean? Or just
Exactly.
like different little things that I felt like were not common knowledge. And I think when you're really transparent like that and you're just willing to, put it all out there, I think that really provides a lot of value to people and it just shows like you're I don't know, you're trustworthy almost and you are
Exactly.
like their educator. Like I always thought about that like I want to be someone's educator. Like in their mind, I want to be like the one that they think of when they're like, okay, who
Yes.
teaches you the most on social media? So I think that type
Oh,
of
that's you.
mindset,
That's you to me.
I feel like that type of mindset really like helped me think of content ideas. You know what I mean? Like I wanted
Yes.
to kind of, it's almost like you're creating a course, but for your social media.
Exactly, exactly. I got the sweetest message on my way home from Montreal last night. Someone texted me and they were like I'm a teacher, and like whenever my students have questions about content photography, I send them your videos. I was like, oh! But yeah, I try to I try to provide value, and I definitely do not know everything myself. I've been shooting for like 3 years now. Like I'm very much still a baby, but I've made some progress, and I want to share that with people, because
Yeah.
like I said, when I started out, I was like, can this really be a job? How will I ever find stability? Like, how do I find these opportunities when I like haven't gone to school? I don't have any connections in photography. I really want to show people that it's possible. You just have to grind and find your own opportunities.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you.
So I have one final question for you. And this is like, I try to ask all my guests this, and it's
Yes.
basically like, what is your craziest photography story? The craziest thing that's either happened to you while you were shooting or to someone else. If you have one, I'm sure the listeners would love to hear. Yeah, take a sip
Oh
of
my
that
god.
coffee, buckle
Okay,
in.
this is not concert related, but probably. So I live in Ottawa. I shoot a lot of like government events. So like, galas, conferences, networking things. So a lot of politicians will come, and because it's Ottawa, like all the big politicians live here. I was shooting this event, and people were like saying like, "Oh, I think the prime minister is going to show up, like Justin Trudeau. Like he hasn't confirmed yet. Like I don't know if he's coming." I get to the event, there's security everywhere. They got the dogs sniffing everything. So I'm like, okay, he's coming. Um, so obviously, he's the guest of honor. Like the event wants lots of pictures of him. 30 minutes before he's supposed to show up, I was shooting with my Godox V1 flash. The freaking hot shoe comes off. Like the flash falls off the hot shoe. Like it like breaks. And I'm like, oh my god, like and this is dark, 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 dark venue, like barely any lighting. Like I need this flash, or else the pictures are not gonna turn out. You know what I mean? But luckily, okay, me and my friend Pedro shot a lot of these events together. Shout out Pedro. This is not the first time he had my back, and not the last. But he because I also live very, very far from the venue, I can just go grab another flash. He biked home. He lived like a 20-minute bike ride away from the venue. He biked home, got a second flash for me, gave me his flash for the time being. And so yeah, that's how I shot the prime minister. Crazy because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna shoot the prime minister, and I'm like, oh, Justin Trudeau's coming, I don't have a flash. That was like probably the most stressful experience of my life.
Oh, that is so, so stressful, especially when it's like, this is such a huge opportunity. This is so cool. Oh, it's so dark and my flash stopped working. I can't even get the photo.
Oh
Like,
my god, yes. Oh my god, yes. And like also like as a photographer, like everyone will relate to this, but like you don't like you're responsible for your gear. Like you don't have like if you work another job, if like I don't know, like a computer breaks at the office, like the company will take care of it. But I'm like, oh, I just broke my flash, like, and I swear I didn't do anything. It literally fell off, and you know what? Apparently this is a common problem with the Godox V1, like the original one. Love it, but that's annoying.
mhm,
And it was a very easy fix. It was just I just had to buy another hot shoe off of Amazon for like $30, and like with a little screwdriver I could do it myself. But like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's so crazy. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad Pedro is there to help you. Shout
thank
out
you,
Pedro.
Pedro.
Cool. Well, before we wrap up, I would love for you to tell everyone where they can find and follow you on social
Oh,
media and stay up to date.
well, I am photography Serena on Instagram and TikTok, no spaces or anything. I actually, if you're interested in concert photography, I actually just posted a series recently about how to get into concert photography as a newbie. I try to post a lot of educational content like that, so check me out there.
Cool. Nice. So I'll have everything linked in the description of the episode too. Serena, thank you so much for being on today's
Thank
episode. It was so
you.
great chatting with you.
Oh my god, thank you so much.
Of
Thank you.
course.
Well,
And
thank you.
everyone listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Yay. Oh my god. See you guys. Bye bye.